Since the 2022 season is basically over, we're looking forward to 2023. There are 3 receivers that I really want on my team right now that are going at major values. Or if you're already in an established league, maybe you want to trade for these guys. First player is Jeudy, who had a way better season than I think a lot of people realize. In 14 games played, Jeudy totaled 62 receptions, 818 yards, and 6 touchdowns on 94 targets. Now, is that a great stat line? No, not really, but it's good enough for him to be the wide receiver 29 in points per game, and it's a 17-game pace of 1,000 yards this season. What makes Jeudy a value in startups is his December ADP price of wide receiver 36. He's going behind guys like DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Evans, Deontay Johnson, Gabe Davis, and is basically tied in ADP with his teammate Courtland Sutton, yet Jeudy is both younger than and outproduced every single one of those players in 2022. In Dynasty, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I know this season was a dumpster fire compared to expectations for the Denver Broncos, but I really want to believe that a lot of that was because Nathaniel Hackett was just a horrible head coach, and that incompetence permeated itself throughout the entire organization, starting with Russell Wilson. Now, maybe Russell Wilson is declining, but I can't bring myself to fully believe that a 34-year-old, 9-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl winner now just completely sucks at football. I mean, just look at his stats over his entire career. 2022 was not only a down year, it was a complete reversal of everything that he's done up to this point. Completion percentage, way down, career low. Touchdown percentage, way down, career low. Interception percentage, 4th highest in his career. Yards per attempt, lowest of his career. Adjusted yards per attempt, way down in career low. Sacks taken, career high. I refuse to believe that Russell Wilson just sucks at football now when the one huge change between this season and the entire rest of his career was switching teams and being paired with a first-year head coach who got fired before the season even ended. All we need are for the Broncos to just bring in a coach that's competent and installs a better offense. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Russ return to being a 4,000-yard passer with twice as many touchdowns as what he has right now. And if that happens, Jeudy would be a massive beneficiary of that production increase. I view Jeudy right now as I do like DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, types of wide receivers who are talented but are just being held back by subpar quarterback play. The benefit with Jeudy, though, is that he is young, he's producing similarly, if not better than all those guys that I just named, and has the best opportunity to get a good quarterback, since I trust Wilson to return to form way more than I do Kenny Pickett improving or other teams hitting on a rookie quarterback. And the best part about Jerry Jeudy is that he's cheap, or at least he's cheaper than all the other guys that I just mentioned. Speaking of young receivers who are really cheap right now, Rondale Moore could be a favorite for 3rd-year breakout wide receiver in 2023 based on what he did this season. He only played in really only 7 games due to injuries, but in those games, he averaged 8 targets, 6 receptions, and 60 receiving yards per game. That's a 17-game pace of 100 receptions, 1,000 yards on almost 140 targets. And he kept his production with both Kyler Murray and Colt McCoy at quarterback. So there's no issue there if Kyler isn't ready to start 2023. However, Rondale did benefit from being the Cardinals wide receiver 2 in each of those games because Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins were both out at various times throughout the season. We actually never saw all 3 of those receivers healthy for even one game this year. So that could be an issue for Moore's production in 2023, but there's smoke coming out of Arizona that could drastically change how this Cardinals team looks. There's been rumors that the Cardinals will be moving on from general manager Steve Keim. There's even more rumors that they move on from Cliff Kingsbury as well. And if a new front office comes in, they could be ready to tear this team down and just start rebuilding, starting with trading DeAndre Hopkins. If Hopkins is actually traded, Rondale Moore could see a massive spike in value as the for sure wide receiver 2 in Arizona, which would put him back into the same role that he had this season when he was seeing huge target numbers. That trade alone could send Moore's ADP up from wide receiver 46 to where DeAndre Hopkins is right now at wide receiver 33, which would be a 3-round bump in ADP value. So let's just say worst case scenario, Hopkins isn't traded, Cliff Kingsbury is still there. I still think Moore is a good value at wide receiver 46. The Cardinals are one of the pass heaviest teams in the league. Zach Ertz probably won't be ready to start the season after tearing both his ACL and his MCL in mid-November. AJ Green's 40 targets are almost certainly gone. Eno Benjamin's 33 targets are already gone. There's enough of the pie here for Rondale to eat from in 2023, even if he's still their wide receiver 3. But we also know that injuries do happen. Hollywood and Hopkins haven't been the healthiest of players recently, so you could see games where Rondale is that wide receiver 2, just like we had this year. But let's move away from the young guys and talk about soon-to-be 28-year-old Calvin Ridley, who comes in 2 spots above Rondale Moore at wide receiver 44. Everything about Ridley's situation for 2023 and beyond changed drastically upon the news of him being traded to Jacksonville, and it's only gotten better as Trevor Lawrence has gotten better in recent weeks too. Now, the reason why Ridley is a huge value at wide receiver 44 boils down to one reason. There is nobody else in his price range that even comes close to the production ceiling that Ridley has shown in his career. The last time we saw him, he was the wide receiver 25 in points per game in Atlanta with a 36-year-old Matt Ryan at quarterback. The year before that, wide receiver 5 overall, 90 receptions, almost 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, fantasy wide receiver 5 overall. Nobody being taken around Ridley has that kind of ceiling. Okay, maybe Tyler Lockett does still at the age of 31, but nobody else outside of maybe Tyler Lockett really has that ceiling. Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, Jacoby Myers, Sky Moore, we're drafting these guys ahead of Calvin Ridley. I get that there might be some growing pains when Ridley returns, which is actually step one. He has to be reinstated, and I'm sure that he will. But after that, he hasn't played football in essentially 2 years. He's learning a new offense, getting chemistry with a new quarterback, but a lot of that stuff should be pretty easily worked out quickly when you're that caliber of wide receiver that Calvin Ridley is. Even if he doesn't return to elite Calvin Ridley from 2020, and it's just a solid mid-back end wide receiver too, that's where Mike Evans is right now. That's where Terry McLaurin is. That's where Amari Cooper is. All three of those guys are top 30 wide receivers in December ADP at and around the age that Ridley will be this time next year. That's a 3 to 4 round bump in dynasty value that even if you don't want Ridley on your team, that's a stock that you can then flip for more than you paid for right now. And that's what dynasty at its core is really about. If you're looking for some more players that are currently values at their position in dynasty startups, I highly recommend checking out Justin's video on running backs right up here.